Welcome to Making the Cut podcast with Chris Hill and Sean Winter, where we help you succeed in life and business by sharing principles and strategies that guide some of the most successful people in the world.
Welcome to episode 36 of the Making the Cut podcast. I'm Chris Hill with my co-host, Sean Winter. Today on the podcast, we have Andris Lagsdin of Baking Steel. But before jumping in, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Sorry, Chris. Le Cordon Bleu is considered to be synonymous with outstanding quality, setting standards in both the culinary arts and hospitality industry for over 120 years. If you want to set yourself apart from the competition and get prepared for a career of exciting opportunities, you can learn the very best of New World innovation in cuisine with the principles, techniques, and artistry of the French traditions. Apply now at cordonbleu.edu. So with that, Chris, we connected with Andres a little while ago when we were connecting with a few people, Eric Cacciatore, Donald Burns, for a little mini mastermind, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I've been connected with Andris for a while now. He started the Baking Steel company several years back with a Kickstarter. Before being in the industry, I guess way back in the day, he went to culinary school, worked for Thai English, and then jumped into working for his dad, which is not in the culinary field at all. Hopefully we talk about how the two worlds kind of collide and how Baking Steel comes to life, which is really, I think, where this conversation will go. He's very entrepreneurial in nature. He had a successful Kickstarter with Baking Steel, is doing another Kickstarter right now. So I think there's going to be a lot of valuable insights for folks out there looking for some nuggets on entrepreneurship and bringing products to life. So what do you say we hop in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Well, Andris, thank you so much for joining us. How's it going, man?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a big fan of what you're doing there with Baking Steel. Maybe you can fill the audience in on what you guys are up to and also your background, because I know you're not a traditional culinary background. Right.
That's a good point. So I was way back when I attended culinary school in Baltimore back in the 90s after college. I loved the restaurant industry, and I kind of spent some time just kind of floating around to different spots and working in different capacities in restaurants. My last culinary adventure professionally was with Todd English at originally at Fig's restaurant and ultimately at his Olives in Charlestown. So we had kind of the Olive Group, we called it. So we managed Olives and Fig's restaurants and got a little burnt out working tons of hours, as you guys all know. And my dad was looking for help at the time. So I left the restaurant industry, went to work with my dad and my brother, and we had about 25 other guys at the time. And my dad has this little manufacturing plant in Hanover, Mass. And what we do is we make products made out of steel, predominantly for construction equipment makers like Caterpillar, John Deere, Volvo Construction, a lot of those big groups. In 2011, I was reading the Wall Street Journal after work, reading about the Modernist Cuisine launch, the book, the famous legendary Modernist Cuisine, Nathan Myhrvold. And anyway, the book hadn't been out yet. It was just launching, and the Wall Street Journal started peppering questions at Nathan Myhrvold. And the third question was how to create a Neapolitan style pizza at home. And I'm sure your audience all knows the Neapolitan style. Really, really, really difficult to recreate awesome pizza in a home environment with the pizza stone. So his answer was to literally Google your local steel shop and use steel for your shelf. And it pretty much sent goosebumps up my spine because it totally made sense, if you can imagine. I think I just kind of had this aha moment and literally jumped out of my seat, went out to my plant and grabbed some steel. And I literally brought it home that weekend. And my wife said, "What are you doing with that piece of steel?" And this was rusted up steel. This wasn't anything pretty. And I said, "I'm making pizza." And she said, "I'm not going to eat it." But in any case, I made dough that weekend. And for the first time at home in 7 minutes, I baked a pizza that was perfectly cooked on the bottom. First time, right out of it was mind blowing. And so you've got to fast forward to that was March or February of 2011. there was a 16-month gap in between that it took me some soul searching to try to bring this product to life. And I did. And we did a Kickstarter in 2012. We're just trying to raise the awareness. I thought I could do a side hustle and sell 50 steels a month. And I knew my brother and I and our team could figure out how to make these things. We had $1 million worth of equipment. But to be honest, it was 15 pounds, the original. And I had some big time doubters that it was just too heavy for the home consumer. So I thought I could sell 50 a month and it'd be a really great side hustle for us. So we did our Kickstarter, and literally we did 500 units we sold in 30 days. So, and then fast forward to today, it's pretty much all I've been doing for the last 5 years is branding the baking steel and bringing it to life, bringing this brand to life and helping home chefs and restaurant chefs, if you will, make awesome pizza at home. It's great.
I want to dive into something. You used the words soul searching. You said that you had to do that to bring it to life. You know, a lot of people that I get connected with the Entrepreneurial Chef platform, there's some of them that are in that phase. They're trying to figure out if the idea that they have is worth it. Should they go forward? So can you talk about this period of time and mentally, what were some of those decisions you were going between, what you were going to do? Can you just talk a little bit about that soul searching period and what that was like?
So out of the gates, like that weekend, literally I made pizza, right? And I was like mind blown. And I'm sure your listeners make pizza at home, and if they have a stone, I'm sure they're pretty good, but they're not great. And so and my initial reaction around the plant was like, yeah, this is a cool idea, but how in the world, you know, we're a manufacturing plant selling to cat and deer. How are we going to launch a kitchen product, right? So, I shelved it. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, no way. But that thing that sits in front of your brain, right, just sits there. And, you know, and we're super busy at the time, so I didn't really give it too much effort. But then 6 months later go by, and I'm still thinking about this thing that summer. And I started doing some yoga classes, and I just kept thinking about it. Like it wasn't called baking steel at the time. It was more of a pizza steel. And I just kept thinking about it, and I just couldn't stop. And so one morning I woke up and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make a few of these. And I'm just gonna start sending them out to some friends and get some feedback. Because I loved it, but I wanted to see, you know, if my friends would love it. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting some pretty positive feedback. And I actually talked to some marketing professionals that gave me some not so positive feedback, which is a really troubling to a person who's trying to, you know, launch a new product. So between yoga and just thinking, I just finally just woke up one morning with, you know, it's like I have to, because we all have ideas. Ideas are great, but, you know, executing on them is so difficult. And so I really spent like the next 6 months really, really determined to at least give this thing a shot. And I had a lot of help from my plant at Stoughton Steel, with them helping me make these things. I spent a lot of time. My parents lived near my plant. I would spend a lot of time there testing it, learning how to season pans properly in their home oven, just researching. And I finally came up, and so we got it out my website, and we made a crack. And then I kept hearing this word Kickstarter. Like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what micro investors were. I knew I didn't need investors, but we did. We got them. And I don't know if that answers your question on the soul searching part.
Yeah, absolutely. It does.
But it's, you know, it's just, I guess we all have ideas, and to execute on them, I mean, find your friends, find your closest friends, and, you know, share that idea with them and look for feedback and keep tweaking it until like you feel ready. And then when you're ready, you got to go for it. You have to.
Yeah. I'll never forget when I had the idea of Entrepreneurial Chef, when you say that you had some marketing people give you some not so great advice, I think is what you said. But I was leaning on the SBA, the local SBA, because they have consultants that will talk to you and they don't charge you. And I had a guy tell me when I told him Entrepreneurial Chef and I had all these ideas, he said, you know, people come to me And they're like these butterflies that float around with all these ideas, and they just keep floating and floating and floating. He's like, just put pen to paper. And I'm like, man, you're brutal. But he forced me to put pen to paper and figure out like a business plan and all those different things, which I did, and had a strategy behind it. But I can definitely relate to that.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah, it's like, but like ideas are like this, like I said, a simple. We've all had ideas, but this one, like for some reason, and if anybody's listening, like you've got that idea that just won't go away. Well, you need to put the pen to paper and get that idea out to friends and do something with it, and just spend those extra hours doing it. I was really fortunate that I was working in a family business that had all the equipment. So, and literally I was getting paid for my job and working, doing my R&D at the same time, which was really fortunate. I'm really grateful for that. But not everyone can, has that predicament, if you will.
Well, and I think one of the lessons that Sean and I both talk about with our audiences is taking your experience and finding kind of where your experience and your passion and excitement kind of meet, which it sounds like for you, having that culinary background, but also experience, in the steel industry. All it took was kind of reading this one article in the Wall Street Journal about cooking great Neapolitan pizza at home, and bam, everything kind of came together.
Yeah, it did, but it took. I mean, it's scary as shit, right? Trying to, kind of sharing your soul with people about what you're up to. Like this is something I was really passionate about. I had a woman from BU. She was a marketer, and she was a really nice woman, but she had said, it's not really great for the consumer market. I want you to give me some money and I'll go travel around and do some R&D for you. She wanted me to give her like 30 grand. I was like what?
Yeah.
I was mortified. But again, and I'll get back to Kickstarter a little bit on that. That was super helpful. Getting on there, getting the eyeballs on. And then, you got to share that thing. You got to share what you're passionate about with other people. And you got to go into your pocket a little bit and have that, I had to send I still do today. I still send products out today because I'm hoping that your influence or your feedback will help grow that brand. That's really important.
Yeah, and that's how we first connected.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. Yeah, exactly. We had I loved your story. And then, the fact that we were in the same kind of sector, right?
Yeah.
And it was great.
Well, so to go back to your Kickstarter, what do you think was, a lot of Kickstarters aren't successful. For you, what do you think y'all did right that a lot of folks don't do right?
That's a great question. And I'm back at it today too. And I think it was a Thursday morning, I remember driving into work, we were trying to raise $3,000. So obviously $3,000 is not a lot. I had the money we already had the equipment, but I needed eyeballs on it. So I thought we could raise $5,000 or $6,000 most optimistically. But I also thought that there's a good chance I might get zero. Like I probably thought my mother might buy one or my best friend or my wife, but that wouldn't be a success nonetheless. But so I had that doubt in me so when I got into my office, I've already done my research. I knew the product was good. I didn't know it was great as it is, but I knew it was good. So I emailed everyone I knew. I didn't hire a marketing team. In fact, I wasn't a very good marketer. All I could do was email friends and family and ex-girlfriends, my wife's family, her friends, and I just emailed everyone I knew. And that's it. So we raised $3,000 in a day, but it didn't stop there. You have to respond to messages, just old school marketing, literally care about customers when they ask you questions, get back to them. I sent samples out during Kickstarter. That really was helpful. Because, it's just, there's no overnight success. It just takes time and patience and just keep grinding.
Your advice, now that you've done one successful campaign, you're working on another, what would you say your advice is to that individual that is thinking about utilizing Kickstarter as a potential funding platform? Right off the top of your head, what would you say to that person if they were in front of you asking your advice right now?
Well, I guess I'd see how much money they're trying to raise, first of all, and really look at that number. Also, don't count on Kickstarter for anything else other than it's a platform to sell. Don't look at like it's going to bring folks there to start buying your products. You have to go out there as an individual or a group and market. Unless you got the fidget spinner, right? No one's going to hear from you unless you get that message out loud and clear. And we're in the middle of one right now, trying to get that message out on dough delivery. And we've been fortunate. We're successful again, which is great. But every day, we're putting Facebook ads up. We're doing Instagram, and some just get no response. So the next day we come up and do something else. You just got to keep getting back up again. Just keep getting up and just keep swinging, right? And it's really fun. But there's no guarantee with Kickstarter at all. To me, it's a place where you can send people to go, hey, look what I have. And we've created something with equal or greater than value for the money that you'll get. That's what we're hoping.
Very cool. So for you guys deciding to go the Kickstarter route, that was not really necessarily needing the money, because the $3,000 you probably could have scrounged up from the bank or your family or friends or whatever. But it was really more of making sure that, I guess, MVP, minimum viable product. Is that kind of what you're going with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly right. We want to know. Yeah, because you don't know sometimes, right? I've got some friends. I didn't want to be that guy that has that product, but it really sucks. That would stink. But I had good vibrations from the samples I had sent out. So now my next step was, well, let's see, because the market's going to tell you, right? So we did, and then I got it out to some influencers early, which was really, really helpful. I was really scared shitless. You guys know Kenji Lopez at Serious Eats? Mm-hmm. He had reached out to me 3 weeks into our Kickstarter. I knew who he was, but I've never connected with him before. And he had asked if he could see a sample. And I was like, of course. But I was also like, this is like, if he doesn't like my product or he doesn't like the baking steel, what happens, right? But at the same time, if he doesn't like the product, it's probably not a great product anyway. So we did. I sent him one, and he sent me an email a couple of days later, said, Andris, this thing blows away the stone I've been using my entire adult life. I'm going to do a little review on you guys. And then, nice. Which was, game changer for us.
Very cool. And then from there, I know obviously the successful Kickstarter, and you guys there on property also do some classes now, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. We built a test kitchen, and in the test kitchen, we said, let's build it large enough to show, we've learned so much from Peter Reinhardt and Kenji and Chris Bianco and Tony Gemignani, these great pizza makers. We learned their methods, and so we teach their long fermentation methods in our class, and it's been a great experience. So we bring folks in every week, 8 to 10, and we show them how to make dough, and we show them a 72-hour fermented dough. And to be honest, if you've had, everyone's had pizza, but to have a long fermented dough is just, it's legendary at home. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So that's what we're preaching now.
So Andris, going back to the Kickstarter for a minute, was a part of your strategy to get the word out, to connect with press or, journalists or something like that for them to cover that? And if so, what did you do there? Or if not, then, how did you get some of that coverage?
To be honest, that was the furthest thing from my mind. I was scared. I was hoping to hit my $3,000. Getting to media was not even a consideration. But then guess what? They started calling me. That was mind blowing. So literally 6 months, after our Kickstarter, we're in Food and Wine magazine, the Wall Street Journal, Bon Appetit, Cooking Light, Boston Globe. I mean, amazing. It was mind blowing, which really helped. It kind of helps your business, kind of like steroids for your business, because you're getting a lot of sales from that. And then I realized, 2 years later, how hard it is to get into media. I'm like, it's so hard. They're calling me. And here I am, 5 years later. And media coverage is awesome when you can get it, but you can't count on it. So we didn't do anything to answer that question. We got really lucky, super lucky. Right timing, right place. Modern cuisine was kind of a new thing. I was a steel guy with a steel background, some food, and that was totally luck. Grateful for it, for sure.
So if you were to try and reverse engineer that, then what would you say to the person that is trying to get to the media or something from what you've learned now that being covered by them and in hindsight?
Well, like I've established relationships with these guys now, somewhat. I mean, they flip a lot, by the way, right? Because they're younger people in those editorial positions, and they're going from food and wine to Bon Appetit and Taste Made. Now it's so sprawling and spread out. I'm in the middle of a Kickstarter now, so we haven't really tried to get too much media coverage yet. I almost want to see, my thing with this newest product is I really want to know if the market's going to accept it. Like, I really want to know, like, we teach classes in here. Like, we think that folks want a long fermented dough at home because they don't have time. Because we tell them if they want to make pizza on Friday nights, you need to start your dough on Tuesday. And if you want to make it great, I should say, right? And so now and the feedback we've got has been awesome. And a lot of folks are making this pizza at home, and it's incredible. But there's a market out there that, there's super busy folks that just don't have time to do it. So we're taking that time and using our time to make that for you. And so we want to know if the market's going to accept a product like this. It's expensive. Shoot, we're paying, you can buy an 8-pack of dough for $49. And we're getting some criticism on the price on that, which is totally fair. We're paying, we're second day, we have the second day air from Boston to Seattle or Boston to, San Francisco. Second day air we're paying, that's included in that $49. So if you back out the costs, we're not getting rich. I'm not buying a boat. We're trying to hope to come up with a revenue stream, a monthly revenue stream for our dough. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think it's a viable product, and I think there's enough people out there that would like this. Yeah, if Kenji used it or Food and Wine said this is the best dough on the planet, that wouldn't hurt. That's a hard thing to do.
Well, Andris, that's why you're on this podcast right here.
That's right. That's right. That's right. You guys got to do it for us. So yeah, that's just it. Like, these kind of conversations, meeting you, Chris, has been awesome because we've had a bunch of conversations through the years, and we're just just trying to spread the word. It's not going to happen overnight, and I'm fine with that. By the way, I'm doing this in 25 years. I won. I beat the system. I get to do what I love every single day. Now,
one thing that you guys have done a great job of, and it seems like it's been you, but it's been with social media. You have one of those Instagram accounts that I'm a little bit envious of. You have the beautiful photos. Even if it's a pizza 4 out of 5 times, it looks beautiful and incredible every single time. That, I would assume, helps you guys as you're gaining credibility. If you have a good-looking Instagram page with great-looking pizza, it only makes it that much easier to sell your pizza on the back end.
Yeah, and I think we're both fans of Gary Vee, Chris.
Yep.
And after reading Crush It in 2011, when I was starting this process, one thing that kind of stuck with me about is just really educating folks on your product. Like, I'm not out there really, even though I'm selling, I'm not really trying to sell, just trying to show. And Instagram is such a beautiful platform for that, is we can make a pizza and hopefully we can make it look really good, pretty fast too, by the way. And that's how we sell. And it takes time, but it's catching on, which is nice. And everybody can do this, by the way. It's just a matter of, but we're lucky with pizza being such a popular food. It's working out well for us. But thank you for the compliments on the Instagram. We got pretty good at taking pictures too.
Yeah.
And have you've seen direct return on doing some of the social media efforts that you do, essentially? Like, how do you gauge that what you're doing?
Our whole existence is based on social media, 100% of it. Craig and I work here full time. What's all we do. We're really big into customer service end of things, like emailing things, and we've got a book out. All we do is, and we don't really sell too much. Unless we're in Kickstart mode right now, so we are selling a little bit, but mostly we're just putting pictures out and educating folks on how to make pizza dough, how to sear steaks, how to make smash burgers, how to make, you name it, like on our product. We can make anything on our product, and we just showcase. Pizza happens to be very popular for us, so that's what we're doing with that.
And as it relates to the two Kickstarters, with the one you just launched for the pizza dough, are you, as you've created a little bit of awareness around that, and people, I'm sure, are stopping by the Kickstarter, maybe they're becoming, investees or not, but are you seeing returns? Are you seeing a correlation between sales for the actual original baking steel as you getting more awareness around the dough?
Yeah. So, one thing that's beautiful for us on Kickstarter is that, we're promoting our book on there, which I hope hope it meets their terms, but we passed, we sent it in. But our book is a manual on how to use our steel, right? So, and we feel as though if we can sell our books and you don't have a steel, maybe you'll be convinced to try it. So everything that we do is thought out and intertwined, right? We have dough that works on our steel. We have a book that works for the dough and the steel. We're all open book too. We show you how we do all of these things. There's no, we educate on how to, make like dorayaki, which is a Japanese dessert, right? Or breakfast or whatever it might. We educate, we research. Chef Craig here is a CIA grad, and he's amazing at helping create recipes. And we team up to educate. We put Facebook posts up every single day almost, and new blogs. And all of those things, guess what, are working. If I knew exactly if I could really dial it in, I would focus more on that. But that's the magic 8 ball.
Yeah.
And when you say you have all these things that are starting to stack on top of each other, different products, but everything is kind of intertwined and related. This sounds like this was just very organic. You had this idea, you had the baking steel idea, and now you're just kind of following the trail to see where it led. It doesn't sound like you had this master plan going into it that you were going to have all these products eventually. Is that correct?
That's right on the money. Yeah, we're learning every day, and we're trying to keep up with what's going on in the food trends too. We have an idea what we're going to do in the next 12 months, but that could change tomorrow, right? We're also trying to grow our traffic organically. It's like we spend a little money on Facebook ads just to try to raise awareness, and it's really fun. But the dough is something that I think we have something that's really cool. It's not for everyone because it's expensive, but it's those diehards that really want that flavorful dough delivered so they can have their pizza night and make legendary pizza at home.
And so this might be a dumb question, but with the dough, you're looking to hopefully continue the dough for an extended period of time into the future, right? It's not just let's do it on Kickstarter, get some quick sales and go.
No, not at all. Because in fact, until we, have our master plan, we have to see what the volume looks like. It's going to be Craig and I making the dough. It's like we're going to be doing. We'll be like, well, why do we do this again? But ultimately, what we see with that dough is if there is a revenue stream consistent, well, guess what? We can do gluten-free doughs. We can do New York style doughs. We can do beet doughs. We can do like surprise doughs inside the box every month. There's so many things we can do with that. But so Kickstarter is kind of letting us know if there's a viable opportunity here. We think there is.
Well, you've already doubled your goal, and you're halfway through?
Yeah, about halfway through now. Yeah, we hit 20,000, which is awesome, and we're so grateful for that. And I think it's about 270 units of some sort, like, some kind of package deal, which is, I think we're up to about 1,600 doughs, about 2,000 doughs. You guys want to come over and hang out with us for a couple of weeks?
Yeah. It still might be a little too cold up there for Sean up there in Boston right now.
Yeah.
We'll send you some bags of flour. Is that okay?
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, I love just the progression. I mean, I think it's just, if people haven't read between or listened between the lines, I should say, because they're not reading between the lines, but I love how you just were open to these opportunities and just kind of going with it. There wasn't this master plan. I think it's invaluable for people to understand that it doesn't have to be this master plan. Like, you can have an idea, you can follow that idea, you can launch that idea, see where it goes, be open, be flexible, be malleable. It sounds like you've done all of the above, but on that last point there, how to your success now, would you attribute it to being malleable, flexible, open, and not being rigid with your business strategy? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, 100%. And that's, in fact, it's the feedback you get is weekly, right? It's on recipes. It's on, what led us to this whole dough thing, by the way, is one, we teach classes and we get people's reactions when they taste it. It's mind-blowing to them. Two, the time factor, right? We just by feeling people out and just kind of seeing, we had an opportunity for a dough. And that was, again, one of those opportunities that I had to try it. We had to try this thing because it just made perfect sense for what we were doing. And you know what? If we failed, that's fine too, because then I can at least get that out of my brain and focus on something else. So we're prepared for that. We're prepared for a lot of criticism too, by the way, because pizza dough you can make for $1, right? It's very easy to go to the market, buy a bag of flour, and make your pizza in 2 hours. And some folks don't get that 72-hour fermentation. They don't understand that we have to pay for shipping from Boston to Los Angeles. It's all included in that $49. That's fine. You have to have thick skin too, by the way, right? Because you're gonna get a lot of criticism no matter what you're doing. And I learned that from the baking steel days. Got a lot of shit when I came out. Lots. You have to deal with it. That's fine.
Well, I think it's a good lesson for anyone listening in. Sean kind of just alluded to. I think a lot of folks are maybe working at their job. They're maybe trying to open up a restaurant or have an idea for a product. Maybe it's even like a spice or sauce company, and they're trying to make that next step. And it sounds like for you, starting the Kickstarter, you realize that, well, the next step, even though you did have the manufacturing capabilities, doesn't have to be huge and out of this world to where if it doesn't work, then we fail. I think, so I think folks can really take away what you guys have done with trying something out, and if it doesn't work, like you said, adjusting and moving on from there.
That's really good advice, Chris, because that's going to happen, right? You're going to fall flat on your face, and you're going to get criticism, but you got to just keep marching forward and just go for it. I mean, you got to, because you know what we have, and can't look back and say, I wish I tried that. I'm a big believer in that. I'm getting old, so I mean, I'm still moving forward, but you have to.
Andris, I'm curious, with someone that has a business or is an entrepreneur, productivity is of the utmost importance, right? Mastering your time to some degree and ensuring that you are focusing on the right things. Can you talk about some of the productivity routines that you have or what you do in order to have that high output or focus in the right areas?
That's a really great question. Interesting. So I work with my dad and my brother for 15 or so years. My dad instilled some really great work ethics in us. And I left that plant, working at the plant, about two and a half years ago. I started working in our test kitchen, which is a barn that we built detached from my home, and it's beautiful. When I first started coming in here, I would sit in the barn all day and just grind, right? And then I still do that at times, but then I said, okay, it's quality of life too. So I started grinding, but like kind of chunking out some time for myself if I could. And I still don't do a very good job of this, as opposed to like grinding it out for 8 hours a day. I might come in and I get in here at like 5 or 5:30 in the morning. I spend a couple of hours doing my thing, my personal thing, which might be a little meditation or yoga. And then I get to hang out with my kids before school for an hour. And I come back in the barn and, Chef Craig shows up and then we grind. Then, we chunk out some time to go do something else too, because that's really important. And I'm still trying to find that life balance of, trying to get fit and run a business at the same time. It's challenging for sure.
Damn it. I was expecting a secret, Andres. Come on. Help me out here.
I wish I had one. Yeah, right?
Give me that damn silver bullet that's ever elusive, but you feel like it's right around the corner, don't you?
Yeah. I guess the best advice I ever got, or not, I shouldn't say ever got, but, Tony Robbins, when he was talking about, we're always so close to where we want to go, but then we all quit. We all stop. We're all, we stop doing it. And little did you know that you were just millimeters away. And so I really keep that advice and heed that advice in anything I do, is that, you know what, I'm going to take that step. I'm going to do it. I'm going to push it. I'm getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. You have to get out of that comfort zone and go for it and see what happens.
I love that. My dad always says, don't give up before the miracle happens.
That's right. It's the same thing, right? It's your millimeters away. And just always recognize that. If you're passionate about something, just keep going, keep pushing. And man, it gets ugly sometimes. It's like, it gets ugly.
Yeah. And
you have your naysayers too. You have people that doubt you, and it's, you got to keep pushing forward.
I think the moral there is the barn out in the back is what helps with productivity.
Yeah, good point.
No, I do think that I've heard a lot of folks. My home office is obviously out of my home. I know Sean has kind of a similar setup. I've heard that for folks that work out of the house of sorts, one of the things that helps to be more productive is to have it where you are able to cut yourself off from home in a sense. So maybe it's walking out into the garage, and the garage is where your office is, and it feels like it's not home anymore. But it sounds like for you getting out to the barn, even though it's the same residence, it allows you to kind of disconnect from one end to the other.
Correct, 100%. Yeah, and I like the commute too. It's nice.
Yeah, yeah, Chris. To that point, my father-in-law, what did he say? It was something like his routine. I was asking him something about working from home whenever I started, and he said that he always had a routine where he did something that signified the end of the day. And I think it was that he shut off his desk lamp every day at the end of the day, and that signified that work was over, and then he was able to shut the door from there. But he said, find some sort of routine. So anybody that's working out of their house, that's the advice. Find some sort of routine. If it's shutting off a lamp, if it's shutting that door, whatever it's going to be, to your point, Chris, just separating that home and work life, essentially.
And I think also doing that at the beginning of the day. So maybe it's turning that lamp on signifies you're starting your day.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, it's great advice.
Well, Andris, thank you so much for joining us. You've, I think, answered all of the questions I have. Sean, do you have anything else to ask and add?
No, the last one would be, what would you say to an audience of, a lot of them are entrepreneurial in nature, that they may have an idea, they may have a goal, a dream, thinking about pursuing it. What would be some of your advice from an entrepreneurial standpoint to them?
If you've got it and it's sitting in the front of your head and you're really thinking, you're just literally millimeters away from taking that next step. Do not stop. Just keep going. And you know what that is. You know exactly what you need to do. And just trust that instinct and just go for it. And don't be afraid. Go.
Love it. Well, Andris, awesome. Best of luck with the new Kickstarter. We'll definitely link to it in the show notes. And look forward to seeing all the success you have in the near future.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
You got it, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. So that was our conversation with Andris Lagsdin. Sean, what were your takeaways, man?
I enjoyed hearing the evolution of everything, from that light bulb moment after he read that piece in the Wall Street Journal. It was Wall Street Journal, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, just I can so relate to having an idea and it's in the forefront of your mind, but you don't put pen to paper, you don't put a plan behind it, you don't kickstart it, not to be punny, but you know, I can so relate to that. But just hearing a story, his evolution, of how he then created that product and then just stayed open, and next thing you know, they were educating people, and then from there they create this dough, they've got this book, and he's now he'll look back, and especially another 5 and 10 years, and he'll have this empire built around these products, and everything is intertwined. And on the outside looking in, it'll look like everything's planned to that person that's looking on the outside looking in, when in actuality he was just going along with things. It was just very organic, that organic build, and being open and being flexible and malleable and ready for opportunities and seizing them and not being afraid and executing, all the above. So that was the main takeaway for me. I think that's a huge lesson for people, and hopefully they get inspiration from that. What about you?
I think a lot of the same stuff resonated with me. You know, hearing how they originally he was hoping for, you know, satisfying the $3,000 Kickstarter, which is probably, I would think, on the lower end of Kickstarters. You know, they crushed that number, and, you know, since have been able to be successful doing, you know, the 2 Kickstarters now, the book, they have the cooking classes. So, you know, not having everything mapped out is sometimes the way to go. I mean, you don't want to go into things not having a clue about where you want to go, but being open, as you mentioned, and malleable to what the market says, and to the way you feel things out, I think can be super helpful. So, yeah, I agree, and it's been fun for me to watch. Really, we linked up right after the Kickstarter finished up, you know, a couple years ago, and it's been fun to kind of see the evolution, see their social media explode. See this new Kickstarter being really successful. See the book they have, which is by one of the big time publishers. You know, they've done a great job of creating a really solid brand. And if you had asked him 5 years ago if this is the direction they would go, he probably wouldn't have had a clue. So you just got to put yourself out there and give it a shot, as he mentioned in their conversation. And with that, we'll leave you with one final quote from Andris himself. If it's sitting in the front of your head, if you're millimeters away from taking that next step, do not stop. Just keep going. You know exactly what you need to do. Just trust that instinct of yours and go for it. And with that, we're signing off.